Welcome to the Social Media Lawcast. I am your host, social media attorney Ethan Wall. Yes, social media attorneys are a thing. And here on the Social Media Lawcast, we talk about all the fun things about social media and the law. But sometimes we also get to interview influential people in the financial services industry. And boy, do I have a treat for you today. I have the pleasure of speaking with one of the pioneers in the industries and one of my great friends, Mia Perez from Louisiana Federal Credit Union. As you will hear, Mia cut her teeth in marketing and now works to empower and inspire confidence in teams every day, and she is here to share her secrets about the financial services industry and her role that she plays in it with you. Mia, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Ethan, it is so good to be here with you. And the check is in the mail for that intro, dude.
Perfect.
I do feel really old, though. I will say that. I do feel really old, but it's okay.
Oh, wait, is this because I said pioneer? Was that why?
A little bit. I'd like to think I'm still in my early 20s, of which, of course, I am not. But,
You know what? Pioneers come in all shapes and sizes. I just thought it'd be cool if you had that nice furry hat, treading out into the wilderness, because as we're going to hear on the podcast, lots of people fit into boxes.
yeah.
Okay. And you do not. You have like a sledgehammer that you take to the box, and you have a complete outside the box approach, touching on the financial services industry from many different types of aspects. And so, you know what? We're not going to talk about your age. We could say you could be in your mid to late 20s and also be a pioneer. And
There
but
you
yes,
go.
I look forward to cashing that check, and I hope that there are lots of zeros behind it.
There you go. Can't promise anything, but
Yes. Now, last time, speaking of promises,
yeah.
last time we saw each other, you promised something and you fulfilled that promise, which was us going out and grabbing a drink when I was in Louisiana for a credit union conference a few months ago.
Yes, I remember that. We were catching up on some things, and you'd mentioned that your travels were taking you through New Orleans, and hey, that's my neck of the woods. And I'm really glad we had that opportunity to reconnect. We saw each other a really long time ago, and we've kept in touch because you've been really a fantastic resource for me. So it was definitely good to see you in person.
Yes. Now, we did learn one thing new together, which was that if you're going to go to the carousel bar at the opening, be prepared to wait in a line that wraps around the lobby and out the door. But we pivoted to a really, really cool, it was kind of like almost like a speakeasy
Yes.
decor jazzy theme place right around the corner. It was a block, maybe a half a block from Bourbon, but felt like we were completely removed from that craziness of the partying and just had a great time.
Yeah, that is so true. The Carousel Bar is a New Orleans institution, and it's in a fabulous hotel, as you saw. I just happened to be standing in the wrong line when I got there, and then you approached me, and I'm like, dude, I think that's the line to get in. So it all worked out. I think where we ended up was great. The cocktails were fantastic, and the company was better. So
Could not agree more. Now, you and I could probably talk about cocktails and carousels for the entire podcast, but some of our listeners here I know would want to hear about that, but other ones really want to know
yeah.
about your work in the financial services industry. So I want to know, how did you break into this industry in the first place?
Oh man, it's actually a boring answer to a really interesting question, but the short of it is I sort of stumbled upon it though, Ethan. I always wanted to be believe it or not an attorney. I don't think I've ever told you that. I always wanted to be an attorney. I really enjoy the debate and just the point counterpoint. And then I thought about a career in pharmacy, but then interviewed a pharmacist, and they said, number one, everyone who comes to see you is going to be in a bad mood. And number two, 3 years of chemistry. And I was like, oh, okay, no. So I stumbled upon the industry. I actually started working in credit unions as part of a high school program, believe it or not, and had no intentions of staying in the industry. I didn't know what a credit union was, but I sort of found my way. And what really convinced me to hang around and make this a career is at the end of the day, what we do in credit unions really aligns with my own personal why. And the quick story behind that was I remember a young woman coming into the credit union where I was working at the time, and we ended up refinancing her vehicle. She walked into a dealership, a young lady, and she bought a brand new Mustang. And, the new car smell and the shiny chrome, she bought it. And then the realization sets in on the payment. Long story short, we ended up refinancing that car for her and saving her hundreds a month on that payment. And just to see the stress, sort of just, her decompression of stress and anxiety, I said, we're really doing something that matters to everyday people. And from that point on, I've just been hooked.
Isn't it incredible? Like when you go into this industry, even kind of, I remember when I went to go become a lawyer, I thought to myself, okay, cool, great. I'll get to help people, but really I get to make money. It's like nice social status. That was really my thoughts into it. I remember my mentor, Olivia Duhart, telling me like, Ethan, you should go into public service and help people. And I'm like, no, I want to go to the biggest firm that offers the biggest amount of money, the most prestige. And she's like, you're not going to realize how miserable that you're going to be if you're doing something because money is the most important thing about it. We have to have money to pay for things, but when we actually get to see how much that we're able to help people, like the woman with the Mustang with her car payment, or like helping a pro bono, startup client at the law firm to help them learn about what a trademark is, that stuff really matters. And at the end of the day, it's important to do good things in business, but it makes all the difference in the world to be able to change somebody's life for the better. And you got that impression from your initial breakthrough into the industry.
Yeah, and I can't agree with that more. I guess, when you're young and dumb, you sort of don't have a perspective, right? We think we need all the money, and we're in the world, and society tells us that that's what defines you as a successful person. And if there was one piece of advice I can give a young person, is that's probably the there's no truth to that. Like you said, you need money to survive, but doing something with a purpose, and at the end of the day, when you feel like you've made an impact in someone's life, that's the true testament of happiness in terms of our secular work and what we decide to spend almost all of our time doing. So couldn't agree with you more on that. Absolutely.
Love it. And we can have a whole nother podcast on what it's like to find your focus and find your purpose.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, I am going to be doing a new podcast on that. So we will pick that conversation up for sure.
Awesome.
But it couldn't be more true.
Yeah.
But just like you said that you fell into, in a way, the industry, lots of us have the same thing. Um, you also maneuvered through the industry in very different ways. You didn't just stay in one department and go from there. Tell me kind of how you got your start, which I think started perhaps in marketing, and how your role and position in the financial industry has evolved over time.
Yeah, got my start. Well, of course, the school program was sort of a work study deal. Spent some time in lending and then in data processing for a little while. But really, my real start, I would say, was in marketing. And the CEO at the time, um, I remember she walked into my office and she said, "Mia, I think we need a marketing department." And I said, "Awesome." She says, "And I think you're the person to do it. So I'm going to send you here to this school, and here's this resource. And it's a 2-week program, and come back. And I want you to spin up our marketing department." And I said, "Absolutely." She walked out, and I literally, Google wasn't happening back in the day. So I don't know if I pulled out a dictionary or phoned a friend and said, what is marketing? I had no clue, but listen, I was confident I was going to make it work. Uh, Fast forward, it did. I had a really fantastic experience at that credit union, and I worked in credit unions for the majority of my career. And then, of course, then you see marketing really interacts and aligns with not just the external brand focus and the consumer mindset, but also the internal stakeholder. So, human resources, organizational development, training, HR, business development, all of those areas I've tiptoed in. And now, really, those are the teams that I work with closely on a day to day basis now. So, it's been great because it hasn't just been one particular focus, but it's helped me to be able to see how all things work together. And so we're not working in who was a general that said our silos of excellence, our areas of excellence, and this, that silo mentality. So it's been really helpful for me
Yeah.
to experience all that.
No, for sure. It's kind of like a jackknife of sorts. It's like each different tool is all part of the whole and of itself. And if it wasn't all together, if you don't know how all of these things work, you're not going to be able to accomplish your objective. You can't accomplish your goals. And you've had the ability to see these different silos and realize these silos of sorts are all interconnected in a way. And if people aren't speaking to each other, if we don't know how they all work together, it's going to be inefficient. People aren't going to understand what the goals are. We're not going to be pulling our oars in the same direction at the same time, and we're not going to get to where we want to go fast enough. So you've been able to see all of that through it. And now you get to have your hands in a whole bunch of really cool cookie jars at once, which I'm sure makes every day something new and exciting as opposed to the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and I think my experience, just my path, really speaks to that. When you have an advocate and a sponsor in an area, in another department, or you've got some experience with working, working closely with those people. Now, when you move on to other areas of the business, you can advocate for the person on the left and the right. And so now, when you become, late in my career here, a strategic leader, you're able to see the 30,000-foot view, and you're able to
Hmm.
see exactly how the entire operation must work together in order to be successful. And so I laugh now because I think back, I'm like, what do I actually do? I don't actually do anything anymore. I'm not the practitioner or the tactician anymore. And so I kind of like, reconsidering my life at this point. But it's led me to a place now where you can steer the organization in a strategic mindset and on that path where others are really just the focused getting things done people, and you need all those types of people on your team. So I'm grateful for all the experiences and all the people I'm able to work with.
Totally. I forgot what book it was. They talked about the difference between minders, grinders, and finders. Okay, minders are people like your current role. They have a vision. They're able to see risks and opportunities that others don't see, and are able to kind of see things from the big picture. Grinders love doing the work. Give me the assignments. Let me produce the work product, whatever it is. And finders are the ones that have to go out there and bring in new clients, new business, new opportunities. And it's very rare, if at all, for any one person to be all three. You're likely dominant in one and then kind of
Yes.
have support in another one, and led to be done with all three. You're kind of running in too many different directions and probably utilizing skills that you don't have. So you might be saying, man, I got to reevaluate where I'm at. But you're the minder over here, having touched everything and grinded out in different areas. And now it could say, I see how this all fits together. And you can see
Yes.
a path. And speaking of a path, you started with different credit unions
Yep.
over time, and now
Yep.
you're here at Louisiana Federal Credit Union. How did you get to join this wonderful team?
That's an interesting story. So I was working for a credit union, and then left that and went on to run my own consulting firm for credit unions. In my experience, I had learned that accounting and lending were always looked at as the golden children of the operation. And when marketing needed something, it was like, oh, there's a Christmas tree that needs to be put up. Call them. Or we need a pretty logo. Call those people. They know about colors and construction paper. And I was like, okay, we're getting no love when marketing is really a science and understanding consumer mindset and the consumer buying journey. And no one really drank that Kool-Aid. So I said, I'm going to be the advocate for shops that cannot afford the resource of a full, maybe PR firm, design firm, marketing department. And so I did that. And Louisiana Federal happened to be a client. And so at that time, the CEO called me, and she's a great friend and ended up being a fantastic boss and still is, Rhonda Hotard. And we ended up having a conversation, and she wanted me to come on board and do some work for them. And at that point, I decided, I wasn't in a place, listen, I'm not that smart. I can't do a full time consulting gig and also dedicate all of my resources and energy to a shop. So I decided I loved the team so much, and I took the opportunity to work with them full time and said I'd probably do a 2-year stint. And Ethan, I've just looked at the calendar, and I've actually been there 15 years. 15 years.
Whoa!
Yeah. So it's been a great ride. But great people will do that though. They keep you around. So
For sure. And obviously, finding somebody great in you and bringing them on board show the foresight that they had. But at the same time, to be there for 15 years tells you that this was the right fit for you both.
yeah,
And to go into something thinking, I'm just going to dip my toe in the water, and to kind of fully submerge yourself into something just shows there's so much more to do, so many people to help, and so many great people to take the journey alongside of you. Um, so I think that's
absolutely.
terrific. Now, having that marketing mindset and knowing that credit unions, kind of like lawyers, were probably behind the times when it came to emerging technologies and using new things for marketing. As you said, take a 2-week course, now you're the marketing department. It's indicative of kind of how the industry was, but the industry is
Yes.
evolving and we're
Yes.
using new technology all the time. And one of the most favorite technologies near and dear to my heart is social media. No surprise. So, what is the role that social media plays now for credit unions?
That is such a great question because some people have this idea, when social media was a new thing, it's like, oh, it's a new thing. Oh, and it's a free thing? Marketing, take that and do it. And it's like, number one, they're not trained in public relations. Number two, they don't understand that it's reputation risk. And number three, it's not free. Just because the channel might be free, you still have to invest the time and the resources in order for it to be successful. Right. And so I think early on, credit unions, and probably not just this industry, but I think some businesses said, let's take advantage and deep dive, but let's not throw the adequate resources in that channel. And so now we've learned a lot over time. But social media does play a key part in what we do. And I have always said, listen, credit unions, checking accounts, not sexy. Savings accounts, not sexy. IRAs, you're putting me to sleep. So none of what we do is a really fantastic product. I mean, it's not like we're taking, vacation to Tahiti. So what are we doing that's setting ourselves apart that we can align where the consumer already is and then provide a solution for them that looks beyond just the money and the product, but is actually fulfilling the need of the consumer with the American dream and buying the home, with sending the kid to college, first person in their family to go to school, and we provide that tuition. So it's all of those things, but we use social media to connect all of those dots and at the end of the day, provide the consumer with what they want.
Amazing. So it's a way to reach out and connect with people, help them to connect the dots between what they care about and what's important to them, and how you are able to help them to achieve whatever those life goals might be, such as buying a house or um, getting a new car or growing their family or whatever it is that it might be. It's a channel that is free, but it's not a channel that is easy to use. And just using it as a free voice to get out there is probably not going to accomplish your goals. And so I'm sure that all credit unions' use of social media continues to evolve over time, which presents some of those opportunities to be able to reach new people and help them, but probably also creates new risks that we didn't think about before. How have you seen the risks inherent in social media and how your credit union and other credit unions are able to manage those risks?
Oh man, that's such a good. You were on a roll, so I didn't want to interrupt you there. But I was thinking as you were talking, I'm saying, "Oh my god!" But it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. Social media is a double-edged sword. It's everybody's on it. You have got to be in that space because that's where your consumers are. But if you don't know what you're doing, it is so dangerous because for the things we already mentioned, the reputation risk number one, just by how you present yourself. But also, there are, as you know, and as I've learned from you, rules, regulations, laws, all of these things. Listen, we're like old school advertising people back in the day. Marketing has really evolved, and you have to stay on pace with those changes and the innovation that's happening in the world to understand how, yes, this might be some low hanging fruit, but if you're not following the game, you're going to find yourself in some serious hot water and some very expensive hot water, right?
And all of a sudden that free platform doesn't seem so free anymore when it comes to those risks. But at the same
Yes.
time, and I love your analogy about the double-edged sword, because it's kind of like social media is almost this jungle out there that has all
Yes.
this wonderful treasure. If you're able to use social media correctly, you help yourself and you help other people. And the more innovative that you can be with your strategies, the better that you can navigate through this jungle. With that said, there are risks there. There are alligators popping out of the swamp, and there are like quicksand that you can fall into if you don't know what the risks are and how to spot them. And so that sword itself is both a tool to help us to accomplish our goals, but also we need to have a shield with us as well to make sure that we're protecting ourselves as we are being able to navigate through that fun and exciting jungle. So
Yeah, but here's something you just said, talking about the jungle analogy, so true. Because I see some folks throw a resource, let's say, someone who's fresh out of school, and listen, that's great. You come with that book knowledge and that theory, but they don't understand the practical knowledge and they don't understand the law behind it. And you put them as the face of your organization, and there are so many layers of risk, not just the layers of risk for your consumer facing side. Are you saying it the right way? What can and can't you say? But then there's another layer there as well, and that's the internal risk. Did you know that if your employees comment on some of your social media content, that there are rules about what you can and cannot say back or reprimand or maybe discuss counsel and discipline on? You have got to know that, because that just puts you in a very dangerous position if you're not aware of how it all plays together.
Especially if you're going to be reacting to that situation as opposed to being proactive about it.
Yes.
I don't think it's a situation where we have blinders on, where we just don't want to know what the risk is. Sometimes we just don't know, and all of a sudden a situation then gets dropped on our desk. Hey, Jane Q employee posted this thing on social media that is making us look bad in a way. What are we going to do about it? And if we make a knee jerk reaction decision to be able to say, let's discipline, let's fire, this sounds like a bad thing, but Jane is actually engaging in protected communication under the law, then we can get ourselves in really, really big trouble. And so we have to almost
Absolutely.
say, hey, if we're going to play in the social media game, if we're going to go into this jungle, we've got to take our blinders off. We've got to partner with people like you or the other strategic people at the organization to say, hey, here are the opportunities that I see, but let's also partner with people in our compliance department, within our in-house legal department or our risk department to say, okay, where are the risks? And now let's figure out how we can accomplish our goals and objectives in a way that mitigates these risks or takes these risks into an account, so that we can be social and successful, but also safe as we want to help people through this jungle of social media and the jungle of life.
And I feel that was such an excellent point. I feel like some organizations, to your point about, okay, we want to be blind to the risk. Some shops that don't have resources will say, okay, we're just not going to tiptoe into that then. We're not going to do that. Well, listen, it's happening. It's happening around you. You're already at the party. You're with the consumers at the party. You're on the dance floor, whether you like it or not. Now you can stand there and look crazy, or you can get in the groove. So we are in it. There is no saying we are not going to operate in social channels, because listen, you're being talked about there by your customers, your clients, your members, and you need to be there. You need to hear what they're saying. You need to be able to direct them and correct some just maybe opinions that are in the marketplace about your product, service, all of those things. So you have to be there. You don't have a choice. So that's why you have to have the resources in place or connect with people who can help you in your social media journey.
Totally. And it's all about right. It's finding the help that you need. It's helping others along their journey. And I love that analogy, because one of the things that I know is so near and dear to Louisiana Federal is helping people,
Yes.
particularly with your slogan, tagline, motto, mission, if I must, which is helping you get there. How did you come up with this vision, and how it aligns with the why of the credit union? And then how do you go about protecting something like that when you have such a valuable mission that is designed to help so many people along the way?
That is probably something we didn't quite think about when we engaged in overhauling some of our brand elements years ago. It's one of the first things that I did when I came aboard here at Louisiana Federal. And we came up with this tagline, and it was just so authentic. It's like, what do we do here? We don't sell the products that aren't sexy, even though we do, but we're in the business of helping people. And so helping you get there became our tagline. It is all over our walls, it's all over everything we produce. And then later on, we developed this why statement that really aligns with the tagline. And our why is helping people so that they can focus on life first. So they
Mm.
go hand in hand. And it's such a beautiful statement if you think about it, helping people when your members are trying to decide, do I buy the medication for my screaming child in the car with a fever, or do I buy milk? And when you're able to save them financially, they're able to take those funds and dedicate them to things to help them live their life first. And all of those experiences from our staff helped bubble up this why statement and land us with this motto and this tagline of helping you get there. But we're well aware that it's not anything severely unique, right? So how do we protect that? We really didn't know where to start with that. We just knew we should probably, we're getting to a place where our reach is pretty prominent, and we need something that's scalable, and we have to protect all of the investment that we've made in this journey. And we didn't quite know where to start. Of course, I thought of you. I remember that. I was like, who in the world can help me with this? I've got a labor law attorney, I've got an attorney for this, but who in the world is going to help me with the social media side and trademarking? And so we reached out to you. I remember that, and you were able to help us on that journey. And it was really interesting. I'd not embarked on that before on this scale. And we actually, if we recall, we had to end up working with another organization that had a very similar tag, but we were able to partner, really align and work through that. But I tell you, there are some really big organizations that have been in headlines over the past year or two that have gone through an entire branding exercise, tagline, motto, the whole thing, only to have a trademark infringement case brought upon them in the 11th hour, to the point where they're like, does anybody else want to buy these branding assets because we cannot use them in this industry? Save save that trouble. So, no one would think that they have to do that, but it's something you almost learn the hard way.
Yeah, kind of. I don't like, I think when people come up with a new business or people come up with a logo or slogan or product name, the first thing they don't think about is a trademark. The first thing they think
Nope.
about is this is a cool name. This is a cool brand. And then just like I think you match with someone on a dating site, you get excited, you fall in love, you kind of like envision all of these things. And
Yes.
then when someone says, wait a minute, someone else out there is married to this person or seeing this person, or there might be some risks in doing this, your heart gets broken. You're like, oh no, but I love it, and I don't want to live without it, and I want to keep pushing forward despite the risk that I'm going to be getting myself into serious trouble. And that
Such
might
a
be
bad I'm like, Ethan, I think there's a reality TV show about this topic, but
you know what? Maybe not my best analogy, but I'm sticking with it because I'm committed to the analogy.
all
But
in.
but yes, all in. But here, this what I love about what happened in our scenario is everything worked out for everybody because the intentions behind everything was very pure.
Yes.
We want to help people. We want to help people in our local geographic area. Somebody else out there was also using the name in a similar industry, but they recognized, look, we can all help people by moving forward this kind of high level value of making people's lives better, and we're able to all reach an agreement where everybody gets to help everyone gets to use their taglines, and this really was one of those best case scenarios from a trademark perspective. But many people don't have a happy ending to the trademark story or a happy ending to their branding story, and it's almost heartbreaking when you get to that because of all the time and energy and effort, and you can really feel the love for people who fall in love with these brands. And so I guess the lesson here is it's okay to fall in love, but let's also make sure we're looking ahead and making sure that this is going to be a safe and successful relationship for me and my trademark, or me and my business, and me and my relationship, so that everybody can have a happy ending at the end of the day.
You know how you saw that before you go on the date, Ethan? You say, I need your credit score, I need your social security number, your driver's license number. Right, right. So, going back to the example though, in all seriousness, when we embarked on this journey and we recognized that there was another firm that was using similar verbiage, listen, it's a big blue ocean, right? So there's enough room for all of us. But you said it perfectly. People are very protective of their brands and their branding elements, and we are too, likewise. And so it just so happened to work out for us, but that's usually not the case. And, we didn't push the issue in that scenario. We actually were using it in public first. So we had the leverage there. But our goal was to have a partnership, listen, let's align. We're both doing the same type of work. It made perfect sense. And that was, I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for that organization. And they are for us as well. But it doesn't work out that in more times than not, it's the opposite, and
Yeah.
it's such an expensive proposition to undo all of that work. So you can prevent that. You can prevent it before you get started, but you can't be romantic to the idea. If someone else is using it, you have to know that and play the chess game ahead of time so that you don't find yourself wasting a lot of time and resources on something that's never going to come to fruition because it's already in the market.
Right, and what happened here could have been just an uncomfortable, sloppy mess that many people wouldn't have been happy about. But here, because I think everybody approached it with a, we all want to do this together, we all want to find a way to get this done, we were able to go ahead and do so. And so,
Yes.
I think one piece of advice that you kind of gave there is great. Is be romantic to the idea, but don't be blind to the risks. And I think it's the
Yes.
same analogy that you have with social media. Fall in love with being able to connect with people, but don't execute these strategies blindly without the risks. So those are two key pieces of advice that I think that anybody can take away, but that's not all, because I promised that Mia is going to be sharing some of her secrets with you. So now that you already gave out two wonderful pieces of advice, I want you to give out one more.
Okay.
I want the the folks who are breaking into the financial services industry, who are listening to this podcast, who
Yeah.
may have been just like you. They may have stumbled upon it and been like, wow, I love this. Or they could have came out of the womb and said, I want to work for the credit union industry. I want to help people accomplish their goals in life because that's important. But they've yet to carve out their niche in the industry. They've yet to figure out how they're going to navigate it. What's some of the best advice that you can give to someone who's breaking into this industry to help them achieve the success that they're looking for in their life?
I think you have to sit down and be honest with yourself about what makes you feel energized. And I know that's really a tough exercise for someone who is just coming out of school, who's got a heap load of student loans, who's trying to get off their mama's couch. I get it. And they're like, I'll just take whatever job you give me. And maybe you have to do that for a little while. But in terms of a long term career, you have to be able to walk away at the end of the day and say, I may not be able to list out and itemize all of the widgets that I made today, but do I feel good about the impact I was able to make on people? So you have to really start with your own why. And we went through that journey as an organization, Simon Sinek's work of finding your why. But I also did it as an individual. And I encouraged all of my leaders in my organization to do it as well, because that's when you can really hone in and understand what is it? How can I articulate what drives me? What gives me energy, even when I'm exhausted from a long day? And whatever that answer is where you need to focus. And don't focus so much on the widget making or the marketing campaign development. What is it that drives you? Because the work that I do, encouraging people to be the best that they want to be and being a champion for those around me, I can do that in any shop, whether I'm over marketing, whether I'm over HR or accounting. But they'll never put me over accounting because I'll probably write a bounce check in the first 5 minutes I'm in there. But you have to understand, and as you go along your journey, it becomes much more clear. But if you can start with that, even as a younger person early on, when you're trying to figure it out, it's okay. Test and see what you want to do, but equally test and see what you don't want to do, because there's beauty in redlining what doesn't work for you. And so that would be my advice.
I love it. Starting with your why, figuring out what sets your soul on fire and going after it. And almost don't be afraid to try things, to realize you don't like the things that you tried out. Because sometimes it's almost better to run after a goal and realize, hey, this wasn't the goal for me, and pivot than to say, I'm just going to stick with it forever, because that is what it is. But I think if you have your internal compass set towards your why, if you know what it is that you're passionate about and you keep pushing, and you believe in yourself and in your vision, you're going to know that this situation is not right for me. And this is the one that I should be going after. And if you use that as your guiding light, you're always going to end up heading in the direction of your dreams and where it is that you want to go. So
I couldn't agree more. It's sort of like what I tell my niece and my nephew. You have to have a no thank you bite. Right? I mean, you have to have a no thank you bite. So you might not like it, but you have to try it first to see if you don't. And if you don't, that's okay. Then you
mhm.
pivot to a new direction. But I couldn't agree with you more. I think that sums it up beautifully.
I love it. And speaking of summing things up beautifully, this has been a beautiful conversation.
I've loved it.
I've I've loved having this talk with you, and I would continue talking more if you didn't have to, go back to work or do something like that today. But I do know that we've got people who listen to the podcast right now who have questions, and they want to learn more about Louisiana Federal. Where could they go to find more information about what your credit union is about? What are your values about? And what are the wonderful ways that you help people get there in life?
They can always go to our website, louisianafcu.org, to find out more information about who we are. And then, of course, I encourage people to reach out to me if they sort of want to have that little come to Jesus conversation about career pathing and direction and passion. And I can definitely share more about our core values and how they align with the work that we do. And you can find me at mperez@louisianafcu.org.
Love it. Love it. And then if people want to jump online on social media and find more about the credit union on social media, where would they look?
So we have a Facebook page. Clearly, you can find a lot of our content there. On Instagram, our handle at Louisiana FCU. LinkedIn, just YouTube. Just look us up, Louisiana FCU, and we'll pop up all over the place.
Perfect. So when this podcast is over, there's going to be two things that you're going to do. First, you're going to go onto your phone, go onto Facebook, go on to Instagram. You're going to find Louisiana FCU, give them a follow, check out all the awesome things that they're doing, learn more about their helping, how they are helping people in Louisiana. Go ahead and accomplish your dreams. And then when you're done, you can just hop over and follow the social media law firm as well and slide into our DMs and say, man, Ethan, we like your content, but we want to see more of Mia. All right. So let's have the social media Lawcast with Mia. But check us out on social media because you've heard this podcast, but we're going to show some of our favorite clips on Instagram as well by following the social media law firm. If you've liked what you've heard on our podcast today, please subscribe so that you can have more of me, more of Mia. And last but not least, we would love it if you went online and left a review for this podcast and give Mia the 5 stars that she deserved. You could say, Ethan, you were okay, but let me tell you all the things. I love learning about Mia, learning about finding my why and finding my way. So please follow the credit union, follow us on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and show Mia some love by giving us an online review. We would so appreciate that. But Mia, I so appreciate you. This was so much fun, and I can't wait until we have take 2 of actually getting in the right line and having a drink at the Carousel Bar next time that I find myself down in the Big Easy. I've had so much fun with you on the podcast today.
Thanks, Ethan. My pleasure, and I can't wait to see you next time.
You got it. See you then.